And, well, that's how Jay became the president of Mars. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. I didn't I didn't know it was that easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he went through quite a lot, but he finally got there. He's starting to colonize Mars himself. That's why he's president, because he's the only one there. He's going to try to self-popularize Mars. It's going to be quite an interesting thing. But I think if anyone can do it, Jay will be that man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the arc in which he overcame the spirit rover, like that makes it clear that he should be president, you know?
The arc, I love it. I like thinking of lives in arcs.
Yeah.
Oh man. Alright, hello chat. How's everyone doing? Singapore, that's Toki, right? What's up, man? Karcha, thank you so much for the tier 1 20 months. Appreciate that, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you. Noxygen, Prime as well. Thank you so much. Dabs. Do we still dabs? That's still a thing? I thought that died out a couple years back.
I'm pretty sure there's still some like true believers out there.
True believers in the dab. Oh, we have the legendary Treeleaf in chat. Who could forget? Dale Snail, glad to see you, man. Sovereign, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. Vape Nation. Oh man. Well, sometimes it'd be like that. Nathan's eyes. Oh. Oh, okay. I'm not even gonna ask because it'll be more fun if I don't. What's up, Streaking Bison? Of course,
Already
we'll officially
3 mentions of jeans.
Oh no. What is this? What is jeans?
Uh,
Oh wait, no, you have to. Oh, I remember now. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to do the classic keyboard community 2016 feat and eat something on stream.
I already did it, but
Oh,
yes.
you did it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I made a milkshake with some denim in it.
How did that go?
I mean, I'm still alive.
That's true.
So, I think it was a success.
Yeah. You know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, PWade.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the denim makes you stronger, but I'll take your word for it.
He's built up an immunity to denim.
Is he
He
now
can now
going to
take
be?
larger doses.
It's going to be kind of like the Spider-Man story, right? And he's consumed. He's consumed the denim, and now he's going to become a superhero with powers clearly involving jeans.
Oh,
Next time he's on stream, it's going to be like jean jacket, jean pants,
I'm
jean
okay
bow
with
tie.
I did wear a denim. I did wear the Canadian tuxedo when I drank the Jilk Shake, as it was dubbed.
Wow, fantastic. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah. I never know why people choose to eat things that are generally thought to be inedible in our community, but I know we have a very long history in this hobby. Of this
it's a
particular
long-standing tradition.
It really is. I recall watching a guy crush up a plastic keycap and eat it. I don't remember. I think that was 2016, 2017, and I was just blown away at how much that would probably tear up your insides. And I don't know, man. Lube on toast. It's classic.
Lube on toast. But I mean, what is it? Crytox advertises all of their lubes as edibles, so
it's true. That's definitely true.
I guess they don't say it's edible; they say it's food safe, right?
Yeah, I recall a stream where I was with Nathan Kim and we were testing out some new lubes, and the chat had decided to ask him to drink the lube water that he was using to clean his brush off, and I recall him doing just that there on stream.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Miller Stevenson just cringing as he chugs the lube water.
I mean, I'm all for doing what you want. It just seems like an interesting thing that kind of came about in our hobby.
Yeah.
And new GMK trays are edible. We can't forget that one.
That's true. Potato starch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hear it doesn't taste much like anything from the people.
Yeah, it's pretty neutral.
Which is probably for the best, right? You don't want it to taste awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume GMK probably doesn't like season their trays either. It's not like you're getting a high quality, fully seasoned potato dish out of this.
No.
Imagine like sea salt and vinegar GMK trays.
Oh my god, that could be like the new thing. That's oh my.
Play.
This is actually big brain. So you receive your GMK set, right? You unbox it, you take all the keycaps out, you put it on your board, you package it differently, however you want, and then instead of just throwing away or recycling the packaging, you just eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the new the new level of biodegrading.
Okay, Nathan, have you tried the GMK trays?
No, I've not tried the GMK trays. No.
Oh, you coward!
Is it cowardice?
Stand by your products if you haven't tried the trays.
I mean, how many people really stand by the new GMK trays? Because I feel like a lot of people not a big fan of them at the moment.
That's fair. I took a bite out of one. Like I didn't even do it on stream or anything. I just was like, well, shit. I gotta know, and just.
I mean, for sure, it's all for science, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'd be more hilarious if you did it just because you were hungry and not because you were actually curious.
Like, I'm starving, too lazy to get to the kitchen. I got some potato starch behind me.
Yeah, I got some tea and some GMK trays, and little hot sauce.
What a snack.
New trays are really bad. Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of in that camp at the moment.
Yeah, they're not great.
To be fair, I'm not a big fan of the old GMK trays either. Those little tabs are the worst.
It's terrible. I just couldn't.
See, honestly, if you were careful enough with the little tabs, you could make them work. At least I thought so. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought too. And then I had a set that was on my shelf for 6 months, and I decided to mount it again, and I freaking ripped the box open trying to get one of those little tabs out.
I think maybe I was just too Hulk-like with my trays because I broke them every single time. Like none of them survived. Every one of those tabs broken. Every set.
No.
I don't know what to do.
I'd be really careful with them. I'd be like, I'm going to keep them all in there. I'm going to relock it every time. Now I'm all about the JTK tray life.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice.
Those are pretty good.
The one thing I did like about the old GMK trays was that they were like the perfect length for the IKEA Alex drawers.
Oh,
if you know what I'm talking about?
I have that right next to me, actually.
Yeah, they're perfect for those.
Yeah.
Yes. EPB.
The other problem with them is, though, while they may be perfect for drawers, they're awful on shelves, and they're a pain to ship. No standard size box fits them nicely. Like,
also, and I know this is a really first world complaint, but I mean that's kind of our hobby, anyways. The GMK trays, the old ones, I feel like you could use them as display cases, but because the plastic itself didn't really stay like fully clear, translucent, it would kind of augment the way the set looks from a distance, anyway. So I feel like they didn't even work that well at displaying the sets that you kept in them.
No.
Keeb Noob says EPBT trays are super nice. I don't think I've had one of the newer ones.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen those.
One thing I'll give. I just got my set of Malfi from Infinikey. The Infinikey packaging is actually quite nice. It was like nicely layered cardboard. Felt very premium. I liked it a lot. I was surprised, pretty honestly, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of the Infinikey packaging.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick mine up right now, but the one issue I have with the Infinikey packaging, and it's like I call it it's like the classic board game issue, is when you put the lid into the bottom, the lid starts getting really hard to get out. But here's the Amalfi package, like nice and sturdy.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
And it's literally just like, it feels like a board game packaging. It's quite nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's even got like that box smell when you open it.
That's what I look for in my unboxing experiences.
If there's no box smell, why are you even unboxing?
Oh, that's an actual box, says Oddrizzle. Shout out to Vogon. Thank you so much for the tier 1 for 16 months. Always a pleasure, man. All right. Well, now we have passed the time to start the show, so I'm going to go ahead and roll the intro, and we're going to get into some pretty interesting topics today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Top Clack. I am your host, Quakeums, and as you can probably see, sadly, my co-host Jay is busy with work today, so he couldn't join us, and as such, Top Clack is missing both its beauty and its brains today. But regardless, we do have still a great show in store for you, and I'm joined by two pretty accomplished designers that can perhaps shed some light, some much needed light, rather, on some topics that we're going to be discussing today. We're fortunate enough to have PWade, who has designed multiple key sets, including the very popular GMK Taro, which had a very successful 2-round run, as well as GMK Analog Dreams, which I would call probably the biggest FOMO set in the community. More recently, GMK Tai T, rather, and also you've recently started a keyboard stream called Key Set Crimes, where you do very unspeakable things, I would say.
Yeah, that's accurate.
We're also joined by NathanAlphaMan, who has designed multiple key sets as well, and is also dabbling in some board design with the Evolve, diving straight into some board design, not even just dabbling. But has also completed successful sets like GMK Ursa, more recently Infinity Amalfi, and just recently you closed out the run for GMK Polybius, which had a very successful run as well. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today?
Who's going to go first?
I was hoping you guys would fight like gladiatorial style.
I'm doing pretty well. Woke up pretty early today, but you know, I'm living, enjoying the stream.
Nice.
Yeah, I just wrapped up my work day not too long ago, so officially the weekend. So I'm doing pretty good.
Officially the weekend is good. Nice, nice. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about design, both key set and otherwise, as well as some kind of theming and influencing that can happen with key sets, and kind of these two experts' opinions, as it were, on the topics itself. So let's just go ahead and dive straight into it. Obviously, either of you can start this. We'll have kind of a free-form discussion here, and chat, of course, feel free to join in whenever. I'm going to be trying to check in on Twitch chat as much as I can. But we will have a dedicated Q&A segment at the end of the stream, just like we usually do. So if you have any kind of questions for that, make sure to save those. Otherwise, feel free to join in the discussion. But let's just get started with some basics here. In both of your guys' eyes, what exactly is design?
I mean, I don't really know if there's like a hard rule for what is design, because I mean, I guess I would probably say I'm pretty generous with the term of just like if you put something together, like you done designed it, you know?
Yeah, and part of the reason we did want to talk about this on the show is actually kind of a debate that happened about a year ago in Discord, where a lot of people were chiming in, a lot of designers as well, as is more like how the term is used and how loose it can be used in our hobby. And of course, that's something we're going to be talking about today. But yeah, whether you look at the dictionary definition or you have your own personal definition. Obviously, Nathan, how do you feel about this as well? Do you have a specific outlook on design, or do you just kind of go by the dictionary?
I'm gonna. I do have a specific outlook, and like that's kind of like a very much a product of my education and like how I was raised here and like in the Silicon Valley, and it kind of gives me a unique perspective on design and specifically the terminology surrounding the word. And I think like the definition is best explained with an anecdote. So design, in my opinion, has nothing to do with choosing colors or has nothing to do even with figuring out how something looks and planning out how it functions. That's might be a more traditional way to think about, like, say, interior design or architectural design. Instead, the way that I define design is problem solving. Designers are fundamentally problem solvers. So the story that I always tell with this is there was there was a company that specialized in making kitchen equipment. And they wanted to release a new line of kitchen products. So they hired a design consultancy firm to help them get the task done. So the design consultancy firm goes and starts talking to people who might use kitchen equipment, because that's how you want to who you want to interview when you're making kitchen equipment, right? Like if I'm making mixers, who do I want to talk to? Professional chefs and home chefs. The last person I'm going to talk to when I'm designing a mixer is somebody who's never touched a mixer in their life, right? That makes no sense at all. But yet, the design consultancy firm decided to go and talk to people who have never touched a mixer in their life when designing new kitchen products. And the question that they're asking is why? Why are you not using kitchen products? Because if they answer that fundamental problem, why are you not using kitchen products, you can expose an entirely new problem to solve. So they spent a day with the people who never use these products. They sat with them as they went from takeout to takeout, as they went, got food delivery. They saw as they pulled up into a Mexican place, the person would look at the counter and see who was at the register and then decide to go to a different one because they didn't like the person at the register. They saw how people would, be very passionate about the food they ate, and care deeply about, what they were consuming and where the food was coming from, about, the restaurants they were eating at being organic and sustainable, but yet they would not cook at home. And again, you ask this question of why. Why are you going through all this effort to get good food when you don't want to cook at home? And they say, oh, I don't like cooking. Why don't you like cooking? Eventually, you ask why enough times, and the answer comes around to be, I don't like cooking because I don't like cleaning up afterwards. So the company, the design consultancy firm, ends up coming up with the line of self-cleaning kitchen products, and it becomes the kitchen company's best-selling line of products, right? Like just boom, like that, because you've by asking a group who you typically wouldn't ask a question that they themselves don't know the answer to, you can find an entirely new market. So that's my very traditional definition of design, is problem solving, and creating these. Yeah, it's this beautiful form of problem solving. However, as PWade super beautifully mentioned right at the beginning, that's not at all how we use the term in the hobby. And even though what my little story is the term that I grew up, the definition of design that I grew up with, it's not the definition we use in the hobby, and that's something we need to be comfortable with, because we don't have better words, right? Design is design. Design is design whether you pick 3 colors for a GMK set. Design is design whether you are designing the body language of a call, or design is design whether or not you are creating new lines of kitchen appliances and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as the term designer goes in the community, it can kind of mean a multitude of things. It covers a wide range. And the reason I kind of wanted to bring this up is because I realized that some people that actually have more of a professional background in design, that feel like, because they went to school for this, this specific type of design, because they do this in their professional lives, it's their career, that the designer term, that particular terminology, is something that, they've earned over time because they put in the time and the effort and the work and the money and et cetera, et cetera. And, to be called a designer alongside someone that, I'm going to say unceremoniously throws 2 or 3 or 4 colors into a key set, calls it an interest check, and is now called a designer as well. And do you guys have any thoughts on that as well, or do you think it really does just span that entire spectrum?
Going back to what... Go ahead, PWade.
I was going to say, I think the distinction there is, yeah, they're all designers, but the question then becomes, who are the good designers? Who are the, thoughtful designers? Who actually gives a damn, I guess, versus... Mm-hmm. I think it's less about the nitty-gritty of, oh, but are you a designer? Or, I say apply the designer label, try to figure out who the good ones are.
Sure. And we can
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Nathan. We could definitely dive
Yeah,
into the good and bad of it in a little bit.
I completely agree with PWade here. It's really just like design is such a broad term in like modern English, and I know like in industry people do like specify, right, like you'll say web designers versus product designers versus solution designers or solution architects, and right, so it in the professional world, we have these, very narrow terms, but here in the hobby, we just say it's a design. So in the end, it's, yeah, whoever posts an interest check with whatever three color, whether it's, done in KLE or whether it's rendered out, like they have done some form of design. The quality of the design is different, but they have done design.
Gotcha. So would you guys say that the term in the community, the term designer within the hobby, is always used correctly then, or do you think maybe we should use it differently, or maybe even start implementing new terms, or using different terms rather for the designers based on maybe quality or level or experience, or do you think we should just keep with this tradition of just saying everyone's a designer as long as you do some level of design?
I think it's more about maybe not so much like redefining or new terms, but maybe less putting of designers on a pedestal. Because, like, at the end of the day, anyone can do it. Like, we're not better or above anybody else in the hobby. But, like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult, right? Like, I think introducing new terminology is always hard, especially finding terminology that's not blatantly negative. I know, like, I'm good friends with Phantom Taco, and he refers to himself as a Crayola picker. Like when he was doing, GMK Blurple. And like to an extent, that's what it is, right? Like you're picking three colors and it's coming together. Um, but at the same time, yeah, like exactly what PWade said. If we just start holding, if I I think a lot of people are implicitly separating good designers from bad designers, whether they know it or not. Right there are definitely people that are sitting at one tier, and then people at another, and then another, and then another. Um, and a lot of people can see the quality of the work that goes into products just by looking at an IC, by putting the effort a group by runners putting into their marketing, into their branding, all sorts of things like that. Um, I don't necessarily think new terminology is necessary. I think there's a lot of implicitness that goes into what the terms that we currently use, and yeah, it is what it is, kind of.
Yeah, I mostly wanted to bring this up because I think from an outside perspective, it might be a little. It seems a little general, right? From an outsider perspective, you see the term designer and you think maybe one designer is equivalent to the other.
Right.
But obviously, within the community, that's very much not true. And like you mentioned, some designers can be put on a pedestal, and obviously, we have better designers, worse designers, good, bad, whatever you want to say. Do you think that would that be a problem for people kind of coming into our community, thinking that these much more professional, experienced designers kind of being placed at the same level terminology wise as the people that are doing these two color KLE renders, for lack of a better example?
I don't think so, because if I tell you I'm an artist, you don't assume I'm Picasso or Da Vinci, right?
Sure.
Like, um, so if I tell you I'm a designer, I'm not Frank Stevenson, or I'm not Maito, I'm not Zambuman, right? Like I can be whoever. I'm myself, and I have my own aesthetic, my own way of accomplishing results. I think it's much more of a label of action and motive than it is a label of talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well said.
I think the reverse of, the community needing to not pay so much mind to the designer label. There's certainly some early level designers who need to not pay so much mind to the designer label. Like, don't let it go to your head.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, now that we've kind of gotten into that, what are some of the more trials and tribulations that you both have gone through in your design process and your kind of career, as it were, within the hobby? Has it always been easy for you guys, or has it been kind of a difficult journey to find your specific process? We can start with you, Nathan, if you'd like.
I mean, no, I like coming into the hobby was like when I was first doing Ursa, it was difficult because there's such a lack, or at least at the time, there was such a lack of resources to help you navigate what you can and can't do, right? Like, and then I want to do my own renders, but I can't find online any resources for GMK icon mods. Like today I have the solutions for these and workflows to solve all these problems. Like I've taken pictures of my keycaps and like meticulously traced all the legends. But like when I was thinking about designing Ursa, I still had my first sets on the way to me, and that was not even an idea I had of taking pictures and tracing the legends in order to make the renders, right? So there was such a lack of resources, and there was like a big curve to navigate. And then as well, there's like financial investments you need to make, right? Like if you're not rendering yourself, you need to pay somebody to render, and renders aren't cheap. Like for good cause. Like it takes good work to make quality renders, and artists and renderers should be compensated for that. And then finally, even once Ursa was launched, it was a process from there, right? Like people were saying WS1 kind of doesn't look with these colors. Try it with CP, and so like I took that feedback and was able to modify it. Pre-IC, I had a completely different name. The set, I think it was called GMK Breathe initially, and it was like, it's just an awful name, right? Like I had this idea, and it took workshopping, right? Never have I gotten an idea on the first try. GMK Polybius, I think, went through like 6 iterations to get to where it is now. The first set was like some bastardized version of Solarized Dark, and then it got to this, right? Like when inspiration finds you, you can't just like take the first idea you get and run with it. You need to workshop, right? That's why Evolve is on revision, like whatever now. I think the public number is 3, but internally it's in the hundreds.
Yeah. What about you, PWade? Do you have anything to add to that? What kind of
I mean,
problems have you
so
gone
like,
through?
I mean, for me, it was honestly kind of just working up the gumption to do a key set, because like I was 2 years into the hobby before I had like any sort of inkling or interest of doing it. I'm not a super artistically inclined person or anything like that. But I was, like I said, 2 years into the hobby, and I was like, I kind of want to put something back into it. So trying to learn how to create something, and all the hurdles that come with it, getting receiving criticisms, receiving good feedback, like it was all very like uncharted territory for me.
Yeah. Do you think that kind of helped shape your experience as a designer too, and maybe like helped in the long term, or do you think maybe it's still something you're struggling with as well?
No, I think it definitely helped. Like just learning about the hobby as it is before trying to,
Start your own
both.
projects, basically.
Yeah, I mean, before trying to like start your own projects, before trying to put stuff out there, and I mean, realistically, before trying to make money off of the hobby, there's like a lot of implications there, at least as someone who has been around this long, those implications are there to me. Maybe not so much for people who have just shown up, a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, there have been
Yeah.
points in time in the community where I feel like some designers are maybe often criticized by rushing designs just for the sake of monetary gain. And
Right.
I think just by having the sheer influx of people that we've had over the last several years, designers included, that some people are probably just going to have money on their mind, especially if they came into the hobby through a source that I'm obviously not going to name, but I think a lot of people recall the name of.
Right.
Where people would come in and just try to effectively flip and make money on the hobby. And I think that, obviously flipping's different. You can obviously make money by designing things, but I don't think it's obviously quite that simple, as you guys can, I'm sure, attest to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when like I first launched Ursa, I had been into mechanical keyboards for a while, but I hadn't been socializing on Discords and things like that, and that was still something new to me. So I'd really only been in community and hanging out with people for about 4 or 5 months. One thing that drove me though was like nothing monetary gain. Like I actually had no clue how much. Like I didn't expect to make anything off of Ursa when I initially ran it, and it was just like I wanted to see this product made because this is a key set I wanted for myself, right?
Mhm.
And so that's kind of like what drew a lot of my initial designs and aspirations for this set, and kind of like right, like I made a set I wanted for myself. And that was it.
Do
Yeah.
this is more just something my personal interest, but do you guys think it's better to design for yourself versus other people? And then just effectively like hope that other people are also into the same kind of thing you are? Because I know it's kind of different for other designers, but I'm curious to see your takes on it as well.
I'm interested
Yeah,
to do PWade first.
sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it depends on kind of, I guess, what motivates you as a designer. Because I think I would say that I've kind of done a little bit of both. Like when the idea for Taro crossed my mind, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I think I really want this as a key set, and that kind of kept me rolling forward with it and keeping it moving. Versus something like Analog Dreams, I didn't necessarily want it as a key set when I was first coming up with the idea, because it was, I mean, like, I honestly, I don't really care for beige, but I was just like, I want to make a vaporwave set, and I'm gonna figure out how to get there.
Yeah, and we got a pretty great one too. I mean, a lot of people really enjoyed Analog Dreams, especially after it got delivered. I feel like that was one of those sets that really, once people started posting pictures of and seeing in person, it was FOMO to the max for a lot of people, myself included. But that aside, we talked a little bit about newer designers coming into the hobby as well. Do you guys think experienced designers, or even people that have a more professional background in design, are maybe held to a different standard in the community?
I couldn't tell you which people have a professional background and which don't.
Yeah, I'll use Dixie as an example, or Garrett, because I don't think he goes by Dix anymore. But Garrett obviously came from a professional design background before he launched his keyboard store that obviously became kind of a staple in our community these days. But he's just one example I can think of because we've sort of had this conversation before.
Okay, and so my opinions of like the standards that people hold gear to, it's not because he comes from a professional background, right? Like that shows in his work. He's really, really good at what he does. Like he has a really good eye for for key sets, for web design, for marketing, for just like creating this type of content. He knows how to do that well. I think people hold him to a higher standard because he's arguably the biggest vendor in the community. We're probably the most influential vendor, right? Like he runs a set with Alice and bass, and look how many bass kits have Alice and bass now, right? Like people expect a certain level of quality from him because he's constantly run 1,000+ sets month after month after month, and constantly putting out figures. So when he does something that is a little strange or puts out an IC for something people don't necessarily like, they go like, eh. But if it was somebody completely brand new to the community putting out the exact same IC, people might praise the set when they don't with Garrett, just because they feel that he should be at a higher standard, whether that's true or not.
Yeah, so basically just because of the results that he has delivered in the past and keeps continuing to deliver, people just kind of almost expect it at this point. I wonder if that's a good or a bad thing. Feel free to expand on that, PWade. If
tough
if
question
like.
to answer.
So like, well, yes, I agree that like there are definitely situations where the experienced designers are held to those like higher standards. Like it's weird because it kind of like oscillates, because there's just as many examples where the bar is just dropped to the floor if a designer makes a mistake, and people just seem to like brush it off and move along, no big deal, versus someone less experienced or less popular. It will just dog them for who knows how long.
Our community tends to never forget good
Right.
things and bad things.
Right.
Yeah, I think that is interesting because I'm I'm thinking about what you just said, PWade, and like I completely agree, but I can't think of a scenario off the top of my head where both of those examples happen to the same person. Right? There's just
Right.
some people in the
It
community
varies
that are
on
held
the
to a very high standard, and then there are other very popular people in the community who kind of just get a pass
yeah.
when they make mistakes or do something that makes you question, a decision a little bit.
Yeah, it's very scattershot at times.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of sort of start to wrap up the design segment before we move on to some influences and themes and thoughts around that, if you guys could tell all the newer or less experienced designers in the hobby one thing, what would that one thing be? Nathan, we can start with you. It's okay if you have nothing for this. Totally okay.
No, I do have something. The thing is, this is something that's like personally, like it's definitely personal to me, and it might not apply to others.
Totally fine.
But it's let inspiration find you. Don't go looking for inspiration. I find that when I actively try to go looking for inspiration, whether it be in key set design, whether it be in filmmaking, or whatever other hobbies I have, the products I create fall flat. But when I let inspiration find me, I create much, much better things, right? Like Ursa was created out, like Ursa was created out of a feeling. There was this idea and this calmness that I wanted to capture. Same with Amalfi, and then same with Polybius, right? But when there was a bunch of sets that I like scrapped in between all of these where I was actively trying to find an idea just by like going to colors.adobe.com and like randomizing the color selection until I saw something I liked and then putting into, Keyshot and seeing what it came up with. And it was just like, they were all awful. And maybe some of them are good. But like, they just weren't resonating with me. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. What about you, PWade? What would you tell some of the newer or less experienced designers?
Well, I mean, for what I do absolutely agree with what Nathan said. Like that is incredibly important to not just force an idea. But I think to like go in a different direction, it's I guess it's kind of cheating because it's kind of two-part, but one, just take your dang time. Like, you don't need to speed run key set design. And just research. Like, learn. Like, Audrizzle said it best. Like, learn your history. Like, there's been so many freaking key sets that have been put out there. And, like, as designers, like, we pretty much build off of what has all come before us. So learning everything that has come before us can just help so much going forward, not just in seeing what sets people like, but you can see like what ideas don't work. You know, you can see the way kind of like Nathan said with the Alice kitting, you can see the trends that have come and gone, be it in the form of colors or kittings or profiles. Like you can see where the hobby has been and not necessarily try to predict where it's going to go next, because that's way too freaking high level stuff for someone who's new. But you can try to do something that will set what you're doing apart.
Yeah, definitely. I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Petrov, who subbed a little bit earlier at tier 2 for 27 months. Thank you so much, man. He says, "Happy birthday, Brian." I appreciate that, but it's not my birthday, so we're not starting this trend here.
The other thing, kind of just building off that last point that PWade just said, is don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to admit that you might be wrong. I think this is something like a lot of people who are new to things can fall into a trap of, is they get into like echo chambers with other people who are new, or they get like really, really, like full of themselves and think that because they struggle to get to where they are, they must be therefore necessarily right. But like just like feel free to join a server, like ask like, hey guys, what is this key for in a kit if you're trying to like kit something, and allow yourself to get help and allow yourself to meet new friends through that, because your experience is going to be much more fulfilling. You're going to create much better products.
Yeah. I feel like in the same vein, like there's so many key sets recently that have multiple people behind them. Obviously we kind of, we always say like, hey, this set was designed by this one person, like, I'm not even gonna think of an example, sorry, but like, we always attribute one person to one key set, I think most of the time, as in terms of design, but in reality there's often 2, 3, 4, 5 or even more people behind a singular key set that have kind of helped with this and that, and maybe worked on one thing or another. It's not always a one-man project to design a key set as it used to be.
Keep just posted a really good comment, which is, I'll never understand designers that post ICs and then get mad when they get feedback. And like I understand where they come from, because there's such a stigma in this community to post that IC posts should almost be advertisements for a group buy. It should be done when you post the IC. And pre-IC is all of that process and that time to get feedback. Right? Like if you look at, but I don't think that's right? Like even look at Garrett. When he posted 8008 too, he was like, hey, there's two completely different ways to kit this. Which do you guys prefer? Even people who are really big in the hobby are asking for help and for feedback in ICs. And right, I think there definitely needs to be a quality standard to the ICs that get posted on GeekHack. But as long as you are at that quality standard and you have shown clear interest into your set and you have already put concerted effort into it, there's no harm in asking for like, hey, what do you think about this? And furthermore, no harm in accepting feedback.
Yeah, I think the interest check in particular is a really good thing to kind of focus on, because I think a lot of people have maybe misconceptions about it, and I think that maybe I've even been guilty of that as well in the past, where I feel like an interest check, should be a lot fuller these days, just because we have seen so many interest checks that are just super well thought out, very flushed out. They have all the information, they have all the renders, they have this and that. But in reality, you don't necessarily need that for an interest check. And I feel like nowadays when I do see that, it's more just like here, this is not only my idea, but this is pretty much coming, like I'm going to be confirming vendors and here's all the information. But it's sometimes fine to take a step back and see those much more simpler interest checks where people are quite literally just there to check for interest. Keep Noob says that's what I've been conflicted about. Like, how far along should a keycap set be before it's quote unquote ready to post as an IC? Maybe that's a question that you guys can answer.
Go ahead.
How long should a keycap set be before it's ready? I mean, it really just depends. Like, what do you want to deal with? Be it, do you want to have to put in the effort of figuring out, I've already got novelties, I've got a desk mat, I've got artisans lined up, I've got the best renders I could pay for. And do you want to put out that sort of super polished image of yourself? Or do you kind of want to get down and dirty a little bit and be like, hey, I'm not sure if this idea is anything. I'm kind of throwing a little spaghetti here. Tell me what you think. It honestly just kind of depends who you are as a person.
So you would definitely say that like both methods are completely valid, and it shouldn't be looked down upon. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
good to know.
I think my really crappy answer to the question is when it's ready. Whether you feel stuck on some sort of option, like do I go with this kitting or this kitting, or you just feel comfortable about the state of where it's at and you're ready to show the public and gather feedback and gather interest and start talking to vendors, you do implicitly know when it's ready to post.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to bring up another question that was asked just a few moments ago by Zakaria TV, because this is kind of in the same vein. They're asking, on the point PWade made earlier, what's the level of experience / amount of time in the hobby required before making a set?
I mean, like when I say something like that, I guess it's not so much, necessarily a finite amount of time, but more experience, I guess. Getting to, see boards posted on, be it in Discords or on the subreddits, like looking at boards and key sets and like interacting with people and that sort of stuff, like understanding what people are into and what kinds of opinions they have, and learning the obtuse art of geek hack posting. It's just it kind of depends on what you put in. It's not a finite amount of time thing.
Sure. Yeah. King Friday says, throwing a little spaghetti. I get the reference, but I can't say I've ever heard such a thing. I'm assuming, is that just meaning like you're throwing ideas and or colors and hoping for
like
something?
You're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks.
See if it sticks, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how you can tell it's done.
Exactly.
One quick one I want to just pick out of here from Edgy Tweens. Should ICs be in stages? For example, each IC stage checks an idea. Right now, everyone just dumps everything out and asks, so how does it look? The quick answer to that is most ICs are in stages. You just don't see many of the stages until it's posted onto GeekHack. Polybius, again, they went through a lot of revisions. They were all internal, and I showed every revision to close friends who gave me a lot of good feedback. I spent long nights in VCs with friends working and reworking the kitting. And it's just like a matter of I have a community of people who I was comfortable with and who would give me really good concerted feedback. And so the set went through many IC stages with them. And once I was comfortable with where it was, I posted it out to the public.
Yeah, that makes sense. Streaking Bison has a great question here, and I think this is the last one I want to take before we kind of move on to our next topic, because again, if you guys are just tuning in now, we are going to be doing a Q&A segment towards the end of the stream like we always do, but this is also a really good question in my eyes as well. So Streaking Bison is asking, do you guys think we are close to having a template / standard base kit? Seems like every IC I read, there are the same feedback comments of what people want in a base kit. Do you think we're finally approaching a time where we can have this is the best base kit kind of template?
There's degrees, I think. Just by the sheer fact that we have vendors that are able to price with price breaks in mind, be it 500 MOQs or 1,000 MOQs, I don't think we're ever going to see a completely standard, this is the base kit, but maybe a few boxes that they can go into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There's like the numpadless like base kit. Like that one's pretty standard. Like it just cuts out all the fluff and really gives you only the essentials. Um, to keep it at like $100 price point. And there's like numpad full kits that target like that 135, which give you a bunch of options, including ISO. Cut out like the options for 65% columns like R3, R4 pages. And you get down to like 120, right? So there is a lot of I don't think there will ever be this perfect kit because different sets do need different kits. Whether you're pricing at 250, 500, or 1,000, whether you're using one base color for all of the keys, whether there's an alpha color, a mod color, an accent color, 2 accent colors as PWade does in his sets, right? Like it's
hell.
I love it. All right, well, just moving a little over to some key set influences and theme ideology, as it were. Guys, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but what kind of makes a theme or influence good, or at least in the terms of a key set? What makes a set good or bad? We'll start with PWade on this one, because I've been picking on Nathan a little too much.
Boy, I mean, so there I guess I can see from like 2 different points of view. As a designer, something that I am passionate about, or something I care about, to make me want to keep working on this sometimes thankless task. But then from like a buying perspective, I want something that both works from a I get it and I care about this theme standpoint, but also from a I like the colors but I don't give a crap about the theme standpoint. Like trying to marry both of those audiences, having a set / theme that can bridge between the two. Be it something as stupid like bubble tea.
Yeah. In that essence, I heard you say a term earlier that I really appreciated. You said the soul of a key set, which I think is something to keep in mind as well. Can you just explain a little bit of kind of what that means to maybe you and other designers when someone says the soul of a key set?
Yeah, I mean, like, to me, it's just sort of like the uniqueness to it, like that you're offering something different, I guess. It's kind of hard to put like a tangible element to it,
as souls often tend to be.
Yeah, because like look at a set like Polybius, like it's just got that charm.
It's definitely.
But then like it, at least personally, like so many various like black and gray and white sets, like they just feel soulless to me, because basically if it's kind of like, if I feel like I've seen it before, it's probably not going to do much for me.
Yeah, perhaps there's maybe less passion behind a set that's just simply black and white. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, obviously, but it's a different kind of set, perhaps.
Right.
What about you, Nathan? Do you have finite ideas on what makes sets good and bad? Themes and
yeah. So the first thing is the white on black counter example is Chantry, which we just finished up with Colonel Lemire. That had a lot of soul and a lot of passion poured into it for what was just a white and black set, right? There was like a lot of care and attention put into those legends. This is a quick counter example. I do want to answer the main question by answering another question that Visionaire asked. And I think it's a fantastic question. He asked, Why can't we have key sets that are colors we like instead of having an entire narrative around it that simply is marketing? And so for me, narratives create better products, right? Like, I am not a good color picker. I am bad at just picking 3 colors that go together or 2 colors that go together or whatever it might be for the sake of creating, something pretty. The narrative drives the design, in my opinion. It does not exist for the sake of marketing. It drives the design, and it in turn helps market the set later on. So, that's just myself as a designer. I know it's PWade as a designer to an extent, but I also know that, like, for example, Heine or Arslock are different, right? Like Violet on Cream have no soul to it. It's just a pretty set of colors that hits, and different people do it differently. It's just, I myself need this narrative in order to create something that I care about and that I'm proud of.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not a designer, but to add on to that from a consumer standpoint, that's something I like to see in key sets as well. I'm more interested in buying key sets that have this specific narrative of, like, a friend that I like or whatever, a designer that I value and cherish. I'm more likely to buy a set based on a theme or narrative that it interests or can be related to me versus just colors that I like, because I'm partially colorblind. So when I buy sets, it's often different criteria than when maybe other people buy sets, sure. But I think maybe both sides are obviously valid. It's totally fine to just make sets that have colors that you like, but kind of like you mentioned, Nathan, if it's just that and there's actually no passion and narrative behind it, it might not really have that soul. And for some people, some consumers, that could be something they actually value or not. It's a little too easy to generalize, perhaps.
Yeah, and like I said, I definitely, like, one of my favorite sets is Sky Dolch. It's Dolch, but like, there's nothing special going on there. But, like, when it comes to actually keeping myself focused on designing a key set and seeing it through, like, having that like reference point to go back to is super vital for me personally.
Yeah. Visionaire says, that's fair, but your narrative is original. It's not, quote unquote, hey, I like this anime character. I picked these colors that look like it. Weeb is on the topic list for today. Don't worry, guys. We're going to be talking a little bit about Weeb sets.
Yeah.
That's coming up in the very near future. So we'll address that momentarily. But I do kind of want to ask, though, if you guys had to change, like, one thing about the way we as a community go about and interpret design in our hobby, what would it be? Do you think people actually interpret everyone's designs the way they're supposed to be in this hobby? Is there something we could be doing better or worse for it? Either of you can start.
It's a tough question. I don't necessarily know if there is much that needs changing, unless PWade says something that's about to be super wise, and I go, oh yeah, he's right. But, like, I think,
I hope he does,
to an
because
extent,
that's more interesting content.
I think, okay, if anything, there is definitely, I think one of the big issues when it comes to new designers who are posting ICs for the first time, whether it's like they're like one posters on Geekhack, and even if the IC isn't fully flushed out, right? We as a community need to try to be less toxic to people who are not operating at a standard that we assume that they should be operating at. It definitely can hurt as a new designer to just have your thread full of people memeing on your set or your idea or whatever it might be, just because you didn't put the level of effort into it that was expected. Or even if you did put the level of effort into it that was expected, they're memeing on it because the idea is a meme. I don't want to cite anything specific here, but, like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just cutting down on the toxicity and interest checks, I guess.
Yeah, I would expand that to the rest of the community too. I think just cutting down toxicity in general in our hobby would be immense, because it didn't always used to be toxic. I feel like a lot of people look at our community now and everyone's like, oh, like all these people are toxic, but it didn't used to be like that 4 or 5 years ago, right? Like everyone was super wholesome. There was an algorithm on Reddit that voted us the second most wholesome subreddit on Reddit.
Yeah.
Out of all the fucking subreddits, like there's a lot of them. So like it was a really cool moment that I got to experience in keyboard history. And nowadays it feels like we've moved so far past that and everyone's just like, this is shit, this color's shit, this theme is shit. Meme, you know, etc. And I'm not a designer again, obviously, but like if I were putting out an interest check and people like that were acting like that on my thread when I'm just trying to get feedback and ideas, that's really demoralizing, right? Why would you want to be in a hobby like that? That's not why you came to the hobby. Hell, even the people that are making these memes and commenting like that, that's probably not even why they entered the hobby, but yet it happens anyways. And I feel like it's really unfair to a lot of newer designers that I see, because it feels like they almost just get browbeat out of the community just because, you know, they're not a successful designer, or, you know, they're not putting out these ideas or concepts, you know, that everyone is vibing with, for example.
Especially when I know I've experienced it to an extent, but like if you have social anxiety around joining Discords and communicating in like public chat rooms, right? Like it can be a big step to even post your IC on Geek Hack, and then to just be hit with memes as a response is like disheartening.
Oh, it's cutthroat sometimes. And I think to build off of what you said, you know, sometimes it's about like raising the bar of behavior, of like, you know, do better. But like I would also kind of say there are some times where it's like hold other people more accountable. You know, don't just give someone you like don't give me a free pass just because you like Taro. Like if I fuck something up, tell me that. Like,
yeah, I would assume that, like, as an artist and designer, like, you want to know those things as well. You don't want to just be put on this pedestal. If it's one thing I've learned in this community, as far as, like, the artists and designers go, like, they're never happy with their own work. They're always looking to improve. You know, everyone's always trying to evolve into these next steps and try to just get better and better. And I feel like it's that kind of passion that puts our top level designers kind of up there on that pedestal. In a good way, because they have so much drive.
That reminds me of like one of the things that really like. So I ask my girlfriend for feedback constantly when I'm designing things. I'll show her something. I'll go, "Do you think this looks good?" Whether it's a novelty, whether it's the entire set, whether it's a keyboard, whether it's just a sketch. I'll ask her, "Do you think this looks good?" And she goes, "That's fine. That looks great. You know, it looks super cool." And I hate it when she gives me positive reinforcement. Like I want her to rip it apart and tear it to shreds, because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get better and improve it. Because I'm looking at it and I'm seeing issues. And when she says it looks good, or it looks fine, or, you know, it's cute or whatever, it's like, yeah, you're not addressing these issues here. Give me give me harsh feedback.
Yeah.
Not that I want people to start shitting in my Google Forms on my sets, but like, you know, really proper constructive criticism is invaluable, but also like, don't become toxic in giving that criticism.
Right. It's such a fine line.
Yeah, Edgy Tweens in chat says be more constructive is the key word, I think. And I completely agree. I feel like people often skip over the constructive part and skip straight to the criticism part. And it's really unfair to a lot of the designers, both new and experienced, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, something we do want to touch on, though, obviously, since it was brought up earlier, weeb sets. Obviously, weeb... I'm not going to get too much into the backstory of the term weeb, because I feel like it's mostly misused in this community, but that aside, are we seeing too many anime-based sets, and is that a bad thing? Is an anime-based set a bad thing? What do you guys feel about these weeb sets that we see so explosively popular over the community the last couple years?
Yeah, so like, I mean, I think there's a couple different issues. Because I mean, for one, if you're, you know, basically skirting IP law in your like novelty design, that shit's not cool. Like, knock that off.
Yeah.
But at least So if we sort of remove that from the equation, if it kind of comes back to what I said earlier. It kind of depends what kind of designer you want to be, I think. Because at least to me, when you have these, color picking your waifu and just doing it for God knows how many times from how many different characters, even if those characters are super different, whatever, like at a certain point, it all kind of starts to look samey and get diluted. And so, like, if you're fine with being lumped into that pool, whatever, go ahead. Like, you do you. But if you want to be doing something different and unique, like, probably don't do that.
Fair enough. Did you have anything to add to that, Nathan?
So this is going to be a pretty cold take, but I just have
Nice.
I don't care about weeb sets, right? Like I spend very little time thinking about things that don't interest me. I just don't buy weeb sets. I don't look at weeb ICs. Like it's just that's it. There are definitely issues that need addressing in the community surrounding IP laws, but it's definitely a problem faced by those types of sets. But it doesn't. It's not limited to those types of sets. I mean, we can go look at GMK White Wolf or GMK Blink. Well, yeah. What's the other one that just recently Gateway had changed all of their novelties because it was too close to the source material, and like yeah, we definitely need to consider how the way that we use IP in the community, but that's not an issue limited to weeb sets.
Certainly, yeah. So in that same vein, I mean, obviously we've had such an enormous influx of designers in the community over the last few years. Do you think there are too many sets in general? Maybe too little effort on some of these sets and interest checks? Or do you think the community is kind of headed in the right direction as far as that's concerned?
It's a tough question, right? Because January we had like 12 GMK sets running, not to mention however many Cam and Cat or SA sets were running as well. February is also pretty heavy, though not as bad. December, November are always awful months. August is typically a loaded month as well. There's so many things running. Like I can't even keep up. Like I look at keycap calendar. I look at what is currently running, and there are sets that I'm seeing for the first time. So there's definitely like dilution in that sense. There is the value of GMK sets is going down, or the value of any sort of design is going down because there's just so much of it. Whether that's a bad thing is a different argument. All of these sets are, except for like Iconographic and Machamoka last month, are making mark. And if we can continue producing this volume of sets that is all making mark, then why don't we? Why are we saying that everybody must like Striker this month? Like, right? If you don't like blue, like you're not buying a GMK set this month. It's nice to have options, right? Like, it suits different people's tastes. So, like, we're a diverse group of people, so like it makes sense that we should be running a diverse amount of key sets. Like, sure, it hurts my sales numbers when I'm like competing against 11 other people, and like that sucks. But at the same time, I want people to get what they want.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually, and I feel like we've often, I'm sure you guys have heard this in the community as well. We hear people say things like, "Well, if there weren't so many bad sets in the GMK queue, we could be running more good sets." For example,
yeah, that's BS.
Yeah,
to me. Like,
okay. I wanted you guys to maybe elaborate on that a little bit because I've heard that a few times now, and I'm like, that's an interesting thought.
like people bought it to MOQ. It got made. Like, if it's some random meme set that hit 250 or 150, if it were stock colors, like the turnaround for that from GMK is they're gonna get it done so fast compared to like the 6,000 kits of Olivia, like at least, by my understanding of how that works, like those bare minimum skirting MOQ sets, like the time there is not going to be that. It's not going to matter that much.
My understanding of it is actually different. The queue sets come into a queue and they get processed to an extent within that queue, right? Like I know GMK Sharkbait barely made MOQ. It was like just over 150, and it finished before Olivia, just after Olivia. But Olivia had 7,000 to make, and Sharkbait had a 150, but they shipped around the same time.
Right.
There's a 9-month delay no matter what. The delays come from color matching, mainly, right? Like GMK Dracula has not yet started production, like over a year after the group buy, because it's on round 5 or 6 of color samples at this point. And like to a certain extent, there's a huge slowdown because of coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Right, samples are taking 4 months to arrive instead of the typical turnaround time of a month and a half, which is still a huge amount of time. But yeah,
I feel you. Okay, so I mean, with the amount of sets that is coming out these days, though, do you guys think people still appreciate the same thing in a key set versus when the hobby was maybe a little bit smaller? I often like to say, like, we have so many products coming out these days, key sets and otherwise, that it feels like we're always so quick to move on to the next thing, right? The next cool trend, or the next hype set, or the next popular this or that. And it feels like oftentimes once people get something, it's just they put it on a board, take a whole pictures, throw it in their closet or on the back of a display case or something like that. And it feels like we maybe oftentimes don't take enough time to appreciate what we have and what we have gotten in the past, and it's always about looking forward to what's coming next. Do you guys think maybe that landscape has changed over the years, or is that pretty much true in key sets as well?
I think with the sheer volume of sets, like that's definitely an aspect of it. And I mean, not just that, but the expectations for what a key set like group buy entails anymore is higher than ever. Like, you almost get like looked down upon if you decide not to bother with like desk mats or novelties. Like, if you don't do those, or matching cables or artisans, like I pretty much opted to not do a majority of that sort of stuff for Tai T because I wanted to keep it kind of old school. Like, I wanted a low overhead type group buy, and obviously like it did fine, but I'm sure there were probably people who were like, where's the novelty, like where's the desk mat? Like,
it's almost expected.
It only
these
got
days.
to 500 because he said he'd eat jeans.
Yeah.
Oh no,
yeah, exactly.
Not like this. Yeah, I feel like it's almost expected these days for a key set to have, artisan collaborations, novelties, desk mats, cables.
Yeah, but it's totally not necessary, right? Like, look at GMK Violet on Cream, look at GMK Tai T. There's so many beautiful sets that are making luck simply because they are like presenting an original set of ideas. Even GMK Dracula, like, except for like the error kit, there are no novelties in that set, right? Like, it's just clean colors. It looks amazing. You don't need novelties.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely like. I saw someone ask like whether we think novelties are necessary. Like, are they necessary? No. Like, absolutely not. They're fun, and like they can help you, emphasize your theme of your set. If you are doing a themed set, it can help express that. But just on the other hand, like, they can sort of be a trap almost if you do bad novelties, or if you do IP theft novelties. Like,
yeah. So a lot
and
of
sometimes you don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna like real quick.
No, you're good.
Sometimes you don't even need novelties. I actually had a whole set of novelties designed for Polybius that were your more traditional single color novelties, right? Like no pad printing fanciness or anything, just one color dual shot, right? And it was I had like a 15 or so design, 10 for a macro column, and bottom row options and escape options and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? This it's just too noisy. It adds too much to the set, right? Like there's already so much going on. I'm just going to cut them. There's 15 beautiful designs that I absolutely adore, and it's a shame they're not getting made. But like it just didn't need it. It would add too much noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jax. Yeah, Polybius is already full of novelties. So why am I forcing myself to add more?
Right.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So a lot of the big takeaways I've had so far from these discussions are, if you're a newer key set designer, don't rush. It's not a race. Let the inspiration come to you. You don't need to search out for it, perhaps. And as well as, every key set or otherwise design doesn't need everything. If you're running a key set, you don't need to have cable collaborations or artisan collaborations or desk mat collaborations or any of this stuff. You can just have a good solid idea and a good solid set, like we've seen with GMK Tai T. So yeah, those are my biggest takeaways so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think now's probably.
But before we do if we're about to move to the Q&A, I guess one other thing to take away that I guess we didn't really get to touch upon: buy the damn books, be it RAL or Pantone. Just buy the damn
color,
right? Buy a GMK ring, just rip the Band-Aid off. Like, they're expensive, but
but you need the physical color samples for the matching process.
Yeah. Like, buy those. If you're doing your own renders, which is its own muddy ass waters, calibrate your damn monitor.
I'm actually really happy you brought that up, because I totally spaced on that. I feel like that's a major thing in our hobby that most people don't even realize. Most people think everyone's screens just look the same, so when they see something, that's also what everyone else sees, but that is not the case.
Not at all.
Yeah. I think, like, if you are a newcomer doing this, like if you're a newcomer watching this stream, like, don't be afraid to post an IC, but at the same time, be prepared to make, I'm not going to say significant, but be prepared to make financial investments into your IC if you want to see the set succeed. Like, be prepared to pay for good quality renders, and even if you're doing renders yourself, buy the books. And if you're not doing renders yourself, right? If you're paying somebody else to do renders for you, I don't care. You still need to buy the books, because your renderer might have gotten it wrong, and you need to be able to look at your book and say, this is the color that I actually truly want.
Yeah. Jax is saying, go with RAL, but I will say there's blind spots between RAL and Pantone. Like, yes, RAL is preferred by GMK, but sometimes you got to go Pantone.
It's not all encompassing.
It's also Jack said RAL is for coloring plastics, Pantone is for printing on paper. That's not fully correct. RALs are also totally used on metals. Pantones are also used on metals, and Pantone has plastic chips. One of the primary reasons why GMK prefers RAL, though, is because they have all of the RAL plastic chips at their resin supplier, and it's just a matter of walking over to the box, pulling out the one they want, and working to match it. If you're using a Pantone plastic chip, you need to buy and send those plastic chips to GMK. If you're using some sort of custom color that's not in Pantone or RAL books, you need to produce samples and get them sent to the resin supplier to get be able to match to what you want, right? It's not just a matter of brushing it away and saying RAL is for plastics and Pantone is for printing. Like, it's just GMK has all the RAL. It's way easier for them to use RAL than it is to use Pantone, and it costs more to use Pantone as well because you have to send them chips.
Right, but sometimes you just need colors that are Pantone. Like, up until Tai T, I only had a Pantone book. So like Taro and Analog Dreams they're both Pantone, and like it went fine. Like we had to resample the magenta from Analog Dreams, just because it was off. But every other color was matched fine. So there you go.
Definitely. So I guess if you're someone that's going to be continuing design in the community, probably worth it to invest in both the Pantone book as well as the RAL book.
Yeah.
Books, plural. You should buy the RL Classic and RL Design. It's two different books you want. So I personally have RL D2, which is like over 1,000 color chips.
Wow.
And then I also have RAL two RAL Classic books actually. I have two. I'm not sure. RAL Classic that I use is K5. And if you're buying from Amazon, buy the semi-matte. Don't buy the glossy because glossy is not what GMP keycaps.
That's a really good point. It's a really good point. All right, we are going to be moving over to a Q&A segment, as we often do on the towards the end of these shows. So if you guys have questions, start asking away. If you use the @TopClack tag, I'll be able to see them a lot easier, so I'd really appreciate it if you did that. But feel free to start asking questions right now. I'm going to be talking about our sponsors for just a moment while you guys get those questions in. But particularly if you have questions for PWade or Nathan, or myself, or all three of us, make sure you get those in now. So that's the wrong screen. There we go. That's the right screen. So, okay. All right, guys. Starting us off, as usual, we have the one, the only, the wonderful Novel Keys, who has multiple things going on right now, including the Box 75, which is still up in group buy. And this is a board I actually got in the prototype for just the other day. So I'm going to be doing a build stream about this probably Monday or Tuesday once I get the switches all lubed up. So look forward to that if that's something you're interested in. There's also GMK Dots Round 2 running, so another April Fool's joke totally come alive to a successful set. That's going along right now with a desk mat alongside it, of course. If you're in the mood for something a little different, they have Cam Super User still available in group buy. Cam is kind of an underrated profile. The GMK Mr. Sleeves Round 2 is still going on as well, so if you're a fan of Teha types and you want to support both him and Novel Keys, that's a great accent kit you can check out. Barring that, there's lots of other things: switches, desk mats, stabilizers, films. It's sort of a one-stop shop. So if you're in the market for buying some things, definitely check out Novel Keys. You can use promo code Clack. That'll get you 5% off your order, and it'll also show Mike that you love and or hate us. Moving on to that, we have Kono, who has numerous things going on right now, including a couple Enjoy PBT sets that I'm kind of a fan of, including both Ramen Stop and Soju. Ramen Stop if you're more kind of the Japanese influence. And, if you're more of a fan of the Korean and rice wine influence, then bam, Soju could be for you. They also have a GMK Storm, which is still going on right now. That'll be closing soon. And they just recently got in more Hex Gears X1, which is a pretty interesting and not terribly expensive Bluetooth keyboard that I've actually used in person, and I happen to find pretty nice. Moving over to our third sponsor of the day, it is KBD Fans, and they have lots of things going on as usual. They're running Ramen Stop and Soju if you prefer them as your primary vendor. They also have Be the One, which is one of the first Enjoy PBT IDE theme sets that I've seen. And that looks pretty cool, but they have lots of things in stock as well. So if you're maybe newer to the hobby and you don't have a ton of money to spend, I always suggest starting with KBD Fans because you can usually find a fair amount of value for a fairly low price. Whether you're looking for 60% keyboards, kits, PCBs, plates, cases, keycaps, switches, stabilizers, they have it all. Pretty easy to get you going right out of the gate. And finally, for today, we have the one, the only, the Mechanisk. Leandrin over there, super good guy, one of my favorite people in the hobby. The shop is more or less closed at the moment while he does some revamping and adding some new products, but it's going to be reopening towards the end of the month. But you can definitely pick up things like Ultramarine stabilizers, switches, desk mats, foam. He's got new mounting plates in palm, in brass, in aluminum. You can get them in Ultramarine and E-Ultra Hot, which I think is a really nice touch. He also still has the WT60D PCBs in stock, which to this day is probably still my favorite PCB that I've used in the hobby. So yeah, definitely give that a check out as well. All right, guys, moving back to the Q&A. I'm going to scroll back up and maybe take a look at some questions. Of course, keep asking questions if you'd like to like to get some answers from these particularly fine, strapping young gentlemen. All right. Anyways, let's start this out here. I see a broken condom, which is a fantastic username, by the way. Is asking favorite key set of 2020. So, guys, what was your favorite key set of last year?
I mean, Taro Round 2 did run last year, so am I allowed to choose that?
I think.
It's okay. If you can't choose it, I'll choose it for you, PWade.
Wow, wow. All right, all right. I think it's totally fine to think that you have the best sets, but
Hey,
just to
it's not the best, but it's favorite.
your favorite. My apologies. You're absolutely right. Terrible wording on my part. But your sets aside, what are your favorite sets?
God, I'm like I'm looking on the Matrix GitHub site for what ran last year, and I'm trying to figure out which I would call my favorite.
Okay.
I'll be honest, like I don't like a lot of key sets.
That's fine.
I don't like a lot of them. Honestly, I'm half tempted to say Gregory may be up there.
Oh no. Not like this.
Like, honestly, say what you will, Gregory is a beautifully thoughtful shitpost.
Fair enough. Well worded.
I ran in 2021 though, didn't it? Well, I guess 2020 and into 2021.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a distinction too. Are we talking about sets that ran in 2020 or sets that delivered in 2020?
I don't even know how to find which sets delivered in 2020.
Oh man.
So I think we have to choose like ran.
Yeah, I tend to prefer that metric anyways, because until you have the actual physical key set, it's kind of hard to know what your favorite might be, right? It almost feels like cheating picking your favorite render as your favorite key set.
Right.
What about you, Nathan? What is your favorite 2020 key set that delivered?
That delivered? I only had it for a little bit, but I did really like GMK Finer Things. I sold it, ended up selling it, just trying to downsize my collection a little bit, but it's great. But probably my number one set of 2020 that delivered, that's not Ursa, has to be GMK Botanical. It's just such a fantastic set, in my opinion. I really love it. I know other people have issues with it. They call the alphas too blue. They call say like the saturation is off compared to the renders or whatever. Screw the haters. It's a beautiful set. I love it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize people were really hating on it, to be honest. But I guess that just shows how involved I am with people's key set opinions. But I actually fully agree. My favorite set of 2020 so far, I think, is GMK Botanical. I like GMK Bingsu a lot too. That one's definitely up there for me.
Deliver in 2020. I have GMK Bingsu on my personal Evolve. So.
Yeah, I think Bingsu is superb. But I think Botanical, as soon as I unboxed it, I went, wow. Like
just real quick here, because Vinsanity said Botanical is sleeper good. After extras, there were 2,000 base kits sold. You can't call that a sleeper.
Yeah, I agree. That is absolutely not a sleeper set. Just out of curiosity, though, what would you guys say would be a sleeper hit these days? How few sets do you need to sell? Is it just crossing that MOQ threshold? Like how the legendary GMK Olivia barely met MOQ, and then it became the most popular key set ever.
Yeah, I think it at least below 500. Okay. Like if you hit that first price break, I don't think you can call it I don't know if you can call it a full-on sleeper. Like Visionaire says, Taro round 1. Like we only sold 300.
That's pretty small, but it was a few years back as well.
Yeah, that was 2018.
Yeah,
January 2018, right? You ran early in the year.
I think so.
Yeah.
I would take that as a sleeper set, or not. I think you go either way with that one, it'd be fine. But obviously, round 2, very much not a sleeper set. I imagine that did a lot better.
Yes, absolutely. 4 times.
Yes. Okay. Back to a couple questions here. Visionaire telling Nathan to check his Discord pings. Glacier asking us favorite designers that you've collaborated with for both of you. Who do you like working with?
I can start.
Yeah.
We both spoke up at the same moment. I haven't worked with too many designers, but number one collaboration partner, if I just like had to pick one, and this is not to diss all the other people I've worked with because I love all the other people I've worked with if you're watching this stream. But if I had to pick one, it would have to be Grundle Lemire, who collaborated with me on GMK Shanshui. My relationship with him is like goes back a long ways, but he's just such a talented guy and so driven and so focused and so good at what he does. And he's really passionate about what he makes. I've loved working with him. I can't wait to work with him on future projects whenever they might happen. So what a lad. I love him.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think I've only actually worked with like a couple people. I'm kind of torn on this one. This one's tough because I'm torn between obviously the massively known Beep or Outraged Pudding. What's the Visionaire saying Dong Blaster? I don't think that does that count as collaboration?
I would say so.
Yes.
Your show co-host, absolutely.
Okay, I was thinking from like real key set point of view, but yeah, okay.
That's probably where the question is more apt with. I would assume, but I mean, feel free to find.
But you can just choose Dong to avoid answering the question.
But no, like I worked with Beep. He did the novelties for Taro Round 2, and he did the packaging design for Analog Dreams. And he is just so good.
He really is.
Like Beep is one of those designers where I've said it before to people where like I don't want to own like a single particular set of his really, but I respect it. Like the work that he puts into each design that he's done is so very good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I know I'm not a key set designer, obviously, but I've actually worked with both Outrage Pudding and Beep, them doing some design for us, and I will say both of them are just extraordinarily talented and very genuine people, and it was definitely a pleasure. Oddrizzle is asking a question for Nathan. If you had to choose a non-food item to eat to promote a set, what would you choose? Oh golly!
I mean, obviously something edible. Even if it's not a food item, I'm not about to swallow some solder or something like that. I mean, I think that the easiest answer is I would probably salt some GMK trays and just go for it.
There you go.
Salt some GMK trays, or maybe like you could turn it into like a stock or something. You could just dissolve some GMK tray. I mean, it's potato starch. So in theory, you should be able to just kind of put that in boiling water.
GMK tray soup. I mean, possibly, yeah. If it's potato starch, you could use it as like a base to a potato stew.
Yeah. Oh no, this is a terrible conversation. This has gone awry. Okay, we're gonna move on here, I think.
Beautiful.
But Mart Hike is asking, what do you think about the resell of F18X? Justified for the price? Worth the hype? You guys have any thoughts on that?
I mean, the F18X is a great board, but I'm not about to pay. What is it at right now? Like, I don't even want to check what the current number is. Multiple thousands of dollars. I'm not paying that for a keyboard.
Is it really? Okay, jeez.
Yeah, I
don't know. 800. I thought the F18X was 200, 2,000 or so. Yeah, I mean 800 is like it's getting up there. But
Yeah, I've yet to try one, but everyone that I've talked to that has used one seems to really, really enjoy it. I know Jay is also a really, really big fan of it, but I have yet to try it, unfortunately, so I don't really know if it's justified. But I personally don't really think most keyboards are worth it on the aftermarket if they're being sold at 2, 3, or 5 times retail. I'm just not a fan of paying that much. You could justify it as art, sure. I just don't want to pay that much for a board, and I think
No.
it might vary from people to people, obviously. And if you have tons of money to spare, I think you might think differently on it. Because sure, if I had
Yeah.
tons and tons and tons of money to spare and it was never an issue, I'd probably honestly buy a lot of shit on the aftermarket as well.
I'd say like if you have tons of money to spend, just commission Gion for an F18X. But then also somebody told me that Gion's commission key was like 4 years long right now.
Oh my gosh,
God.
that is quite something. All right.
My take is it's a TKL, so it's not worth it for sure.
All right, layout preferences coming to life. Glacier with another question for both of you gentlemen. Keyboard renders that you prefer to use / keep going back to for checking a new key set against? So what kind of reference material do you like there?
Can you rephrase that question? I'm not sure what you're asking. Is it like, do I continue re-rendering one set every time I make like improvements to my workflow? Or do I like go back to a render somebody has done to make sure that like I'm better than that?
Yeah, feel free to reword that question and ask it again, Glacier, and we can get back to it. Visionaire was asking, was that a Rukia that you showed?
It was a Tengu.
A Tengu? Okay. Nice.
GC
nice.
Tengu. I'm a big sucker for polycarbonate, so
It's good. Good stuff.
I need to get a polycarb board for how most of my sets look on polycarb. I should really get one.
yeah.
The other day
I got my first polycarb board was supposed to be an M65B, but
ooh, that would have been nice.
Womp womp.
that Rama delivery times speak for themselves.
Womp
Yeah.
womp.
At least the products do as well, thankfully.
That's true.
At least in
Their
my
products
experience.
are fantastic.
Yeah. That one Brody is asking, do you ever scrap key set designs completely?
Oh,
100%. I've scrapped dozens of designs and ideas. Like again, it goes back to this like looking for inspiration versus letting inspiration find me. When I think I've scrapped every design where I've gone looking for inspiration, and even when inspiration strikes, I end up scrapping it half the time anyway. Like the sets that you see from me are a huge minority of what I've created.
Yeah. Do you guys think that's true of most designers too?
Hard to say.
Fair enough.
I mean, if I had to guess, the experienced ones, the guys who have been around a while, your Mito, Zambu, Oblotsky, yes, absolutely. There's plenty of new people who get like, this is my first idea and I love it. I love this idea and I need to make it. Like, I am so attached to it, like that sort of mentality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Vinsanity's asking, when will I be able to get my hands on a polycarb Evolve?
A polycarb evolve, likely never. There was a very limited number made for an FNF group buy, though the normal evolve, the actual group buy version, is coming sooner rather than later. It's protos are on the way as soon as CNY festivities wrap up. It's got quite a lot of design changes. It's not all polycarbonates, but it still has polycarbonate in it, in a very unique and cool way, in my opinion. So I think people are going to like it when I finally show off the Rev 3.
Nice. And I'm lucky enough to be able to build one in the near future as well, once Skewed sends it to me. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Glacier reworded his question here, and here's the new version. Are there any specific renders of boards that you like to use most when displaying a set for IC/promo, such as Rama M60A, TGR Jane, etc., or is it based on what is popular at the time?
You ready to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a little bit of everything, honestly. Um, just trying to think for like uh, Tai T. What since that was my first time doing my own renders, so you get a little bit more leeway to mess around when you're doing your own versus when you're paying somebody to do them. You kind of got to get things done quicker when it's on somebody else's. Um, but so like I did some on a Rukia because I wanted a split polycarb board, and I knew that was pretty popular for people. Um, but some of it's also just a matter of like what I can get my hands on. Um, Obviously, not everybody makes their files available to everybody, and so on and so forth. But other times I really like to use various cases by Alex at Pank. He ran Tai T, he ran Taro round one. Like he's just a very good friend of mine. So like if I have the opportunity to show off one of his boards in an interest check or a group buy, like I'm gonna choose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to some of his OG boards, the Menorca and Seabright.
Yeah.
Classy. I love it.
So I mean, no bias or anything, but I tend to like to use the Evolve when I do renders. Right now, lately I haven't been when doing commission work for people, just because like the V2 has been phased out as a design and the V3 hasn't been revealed yet. Besides that, I try to get like, not that I have specific boards, but I try to get like all the major form factors in. So I go with a 60%. I split between the ROM M60A and the JO2. Try to get a 65 in. Most often I use the Iron 165. Sometimes I use the JO1. I get a TKL in. I have like a huge collection of TKLs that I can swap out depending on what somebody wants. From the J and the E8.5, the Rama U80, a few others. A full size, sometimes like a 75 or a 70, and then if the set like specifically has some sort of special support for it, I'll put in like a 40 or an ortho. But most often, more often than not, I won't render on small boards.
Gotcha. Okay, Oddrizzle is asking a great question. I'm actually kind of bummed I didn't really think about this. What other designers do you look up to? So who's kind of your inspirations and your icons in the community?
Number one, really easy is Piku. Not in terms of his designs. Like I mean, he is a really talented designer, but Piku's rendering ability is just like off the charts. And so like whenever I'm working to make my renders better and then refining what I'm doing, right? Like he is the gold standard to reference, right? Like him and Bielf. As well as I feel terrible for forgetting his name, but the guy who ran GMK ThinkCaps, those renders are absolutely stunning. I showed them to like a bunch of people and they're like, these are pictures. And myself, who knows what to look for in renders to be able to tell a render from a picture, was having a hard time justifying the fact those are renders. Those are freaking insane.
Yeah. What about you, PWade?
Yeah, so I honestly like I tend to not pay as much attention like render wise. Obviously like Piku does do insane stuff, like without a doubt. But I guess I kind of like alluded to it earlier, but like I think I would honestly put Beep up there because like the one thing he does is have such a like unique and consistent art style when it comes to like his novelty designs that it's just super clean, and it always comes across like what he's doing. And I think as someone who sucks at art and doesn't do their own novelties, like that is something I wish I could do.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Beep is a great one. like I love what he does. Like the dude is really talented. There's like you can't deny that he makes great ski sets. So
Right. Like even if
I
you
just
don't like them, they're still good.
yeah.
There's some sets where it's like you don't like it because it's a bad set ish. Like, but they're good.
He has an interesting habit of really stepping outside of the box as well, in terms of designing things like GMK dots or what was it, Enjoy PBT Cool Kids.
Yeah.
Just other things
The
like
April
that.
Fool's sets are bangers.
Oh, okay.
Real quick, the guy who ran GMK ThinkCaps was Voodoo 6K. I just wanted to make sure I googled his name because he deserves a shout out. Those renders are absolutely stunning.
Nice, nice. All right, I think we are caught up on questions, so now's probably a good time to start wrapping things up. Do you guys have any closing thoughts today? Any takeaways you want people to kind of go home with?
Oh man. Any resources to get started with renders?
The quick answer to that is the Keycap Designer Discord.
Yeah.
They have really great free resources for Blender for doing your own renders. Like it takes some time to learn how to be good with those assets, but you can quickly learn to be, really good with those assets.
Like you can get to passable pretty quick.
You can get to passable within like 15 minutes of concerted efforts.
Right.
If you've used Blender before, and maybe in like an hour if it's your first time. And then you can get to starting, like if you have an eye for photography, you can start getting really good results within like 2 to 3 days, in my opinion, with those assets. Like they are really good in the efforts that that Swishy and Imperfect Link have put into those assets are just
and realistically, it's done nothing but gotten easier to jump into doing your own renders.
There's other things, like I personally use Keyshot. PWade and I share a lot of resources. So like there's other options out there, but if you like the lowest barrier to entry is the Keycap Designer Discord and the Wood Render Kit.
Nice. Glacier actually has a pretty good question before we head out. I do want to address this because this piqued my interest as well for both of you. Do you consider a Chinese clone of one of your sets a slap in the face or flattery?
Do you want to go first?
Well, I haven't had any of my sets cloned.
I had Ursa clone, and it made my day. I actually thought about binding. I think they call it Fish Bear. Like there was their translation, GMK Fish Bear. Oh, it wasn't GMK.
Oh
man. I tried to get it. I tried to buy it, and it was like like $9 or something like that. But like shipping would have been like $200, and I was like, if somebody is gonna like super buy you China, let me put that order in. But like I'm not about to pay $200 for shipping.
Yeah,
I love it. The sincerest form of flattery that somebody would take the time to rip off my work, and like it doesn't cut into my sales or anything like that. I don't care. So yeah.
This is really funny because we had Langlandia on Keyset Crimes 2 weeks ago, and like as we were closing the show, we had the same little discussion because neither of us have been copied yet, and it's like it's almost like an insult. It's like, what, is it not good enough? You don't like it enough? Like you kind of you want to fight about it, like type thing, where like, yeah, obviously I don't want my set to be ripped off, but why haven't you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's interesting to think about, because you got to think about it. Like if someone within the community, like if someone in the Western community specifically did that, it's a witch hunt. You're alienated from the community. Everyone hates you. But like when it's a Chinese clone manufacturer and they do it for you, it's maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, because there's no fighting that unstoppable force.
True. And it's often a wildly different product, to be fair, as well. I mean, you can't really you can't compare like a genuine.
The novelties are oversized and are literally being promised by the keycap. It's hilarious.
Oh.
Like I can't stop looking at pictures of the set. It's just it cracks me up that somebody like took the effort to trace the novelties from the renders because like that's the only way they would have gotten them. And then they just like didn't care enough to size it properly when setting up the die machines. So just like it's just cropped by the keycap.
Yeah, and it's often way worse quality. Not always
Oh yeah,
the same material or thickness or even profile. So it's less of a competition at that point and more of a more almost is more of a meme at that point, I think.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, I think now is a good time to head out. I'm gonna look for a stream to raid. Who do you guys think we should raid? You guys have any suggestions?
Who's live right now?
I'm about to look. I feel like whenever we stream at this time, there's like never any keyboard streamers to raid afterwards.
Yeah, it's probably not the ideal time for a lot of the keyboard
My recommended channel is like only recommending like the really big streamers. There's not a single there's not a single keyboard streamer in my sidebar right now.
Same. So I'm gonna say in Liz Kits. Liz Cuts?
Liz Kits. Oh yeah, she's here. She's streaming keyboard. Decimat collab with Cardinality.
I have no idea who this is. Is this a good person to raid? Should we raid this person?
I guess they're the only keyboard streamer live right now that I can see. So
yeah. Oh, here's another one. URIFTW. URIFTW. Interesting. Unboxing. Oh, it's a Spanish stream. Interesting.
Oh.
I'm assuming most of our viewers.
Oh, she's the designer of PB&J. Okay.
Liz Kits or this Uri?
Liz, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll raid Liz Kits. We'll see what they're all about.
Spam by PBT Fishbear in chat.
All right, so we'll go over there and we'll raid them and we'll say something wholesome and check out what they're doing and be kind and spread some compassion and hopefully some constructive criticism and all that good stuff that you hopefully learned from these fine young gentlemen today. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to give you guys a moment as well to just kind of plug any projects you have going on and where people can check you out and etc. So feel free to do that. You can share links in the chat, but feel free to verbally do it as well. PWade, what do you got going on? Share away.
Yeah, so right now I don't really have any key sets at the moment. I've got a bunch of plates spinning, but nothing to really talk about at the moment. But I do a weekly show where me and Mr. Dong Blaster, my co-host, make terrible key sets on Twitch. Last week earlier this week we had Glarses on, and we made it was called GMK Preferences, and it was just like an homage to many other popular key sets. So we just picked a bunch of different colors, and it was a nightmare, but it was a very fun time.
Sometimes it's all about the journey and not the product, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to research what colors these sets actually used, or I'm trying to find good pictures to use a color dropper tool on in Keyshot, and I'm just flying between windows and trying to pay attention to chat. By the end of the show, my brain was just shot.
Oh, I feel you, man. Driving a live stream where you have to pay attention to all these metrics while doing a bunch of stuff on stream is not always easy.
No, it's not.
What about you, Nathan? What do you have going on right now?
I don't have any key set projects to speak of right now. Buy Polybius and Chantry extras when they arrive in a year from now. Because that's just the GK timeline to get with. Evolve soon, trademark. I hope to have it run before Q2, before the end of Q2. I know I keep pushing back the date, but I feel relatively confident about this one.
Oh man. All right, cool, good stuff. All right, well, again, thank you guys so much for joining me. I definitely appreciated the discussion. Hopefully everyone in chat did as well. I thought it was a pretty good time, and I certainly learned a lot, and hopefully they did as well.
I had a lot of fun. And we kept it relatively to time.
Yeah,
only
no,
15 minutes over.
we're getting a little bit better at that. I'm gonna blame Jay because Jay talks a lot. So whenever anything goes wrong, it's Jay's fault, just naturally.
I remember like when the weekly news streams would still happen. It'd be like, okay, we were on an hour and a half tonight, and then it would be like 4 hours into stream, and you're just starting Q&A.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like with that format, it's like you think you know what you want to say about like an item or like a thread, and then like all of a sudden, as you're doing it, you start thinking about way more stuff about the same
Yeah.
topic, and so you're like, yeah, and it was kind of a mess, but that's one of the reasons we moved away from it. But anyways, guys, let's get ready for this raid. We're going to be raiding Liz Kits, who's doing a Desk Cat collab live on stream. I like design streams. This is something I wish we saw more of as well. I think any kind of design stream, whether it be keyboard, key set, or otherwise, I think is usually a pretty educational experience. So I'm going to go ahead and get this raid queued up. Liz Cuts. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and start the raid now, and we're gonna head out. So enjoy the raid, guys, and hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And we'll see you again next time. Join the Discord link below, and you can find upcoming streams as well. I'll be doing. I have several streams upcoming actually. I just got to finalize some times on them, but in the Discord is where you're first going to learn about those. And of course, check out the projects from these gentlemen that they were just telling you about as well. There's a couple links in chat, so get on that as well, guys. But until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day.
What's up?